Hey guys, what's up? My name is Cubed and welcome back to Rlcs Week 3 predictions for this week. We're going to be taking a look at all of the different matchups that we have, and we're going to be going through one by one and predicting what the final result's going to be. If you haven't been watching the previous episodes, we don't do series scores, we just do who's going to be the matchup winner. If you'd like to see the analysis that I'm using to make a lot of these predictions, I've made 2 videos so far on RLCS weeks 1 and 2, and there will be cards up in the top right hand corner of the screen if you want to go check those out. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into this first matchup, which is going to be Cloud9 versus Flight. I saw this meme on the Rocket League esports subreddit that I'm going to put up right now, and it just really sums it up. It's going to be the battle for last place. This matchup is hard to talk about because both teams have not exactly looked their best. And so let's just go ahead and start off with Cloud9's roster, who I've lost complete faith in. I put them at finishing 7th in the league this season, and normally I've been doubting this with some of my other predictions, like with G2, like with Sonics. Cloud9, I think they're going to place even lower. They really have not shown what it takes to be an RLCS caliber team this season. They've only scored 9 goals on 60 total shots this entire season. That is not very good at all. And really just none of the members have impressed me at all, so I'm going to have to say that Flight is going to win this series. Potentially even call it an upset. Flight was actually pretty close to beating Pittsburgh Knights in week 1. They lost 3-2, and that was only because Pittsburgh Knights rallied and won in a reverse sweep. Granted, they did lose pretty handily to NRG last week, but that being said, that's the best team in North America, so I think we can give them a slight pass for that. They did have 2 pretty tough opponents to start off this season, NRG and Pittsburgh Knights, like I've previously mentioned. That being said, I think they actually have signs of life, which they showed. That being said, I think they've actually shown signs of life and that they have what it takes to be at this top level and that they deserve to be here. That being said, they have shown that they have what it takes. They scored 8 goals against Pittsburgh Knights, and not many teams have done that. I think Flight's gonna win this series pretty handily, and I don't think it'll be a 3-0, but I think it'll be like a 3-1 or potentially a 3-2. I swear, if Flight reverse sweeps Cloud9, I'm just going to laugh. It's definitely not out of the picture. It would mark the worst loss for Cloud9 the entire season. My X factors for this game are Seabass for Flight, and I just put themselves for Cloud9. Seabass was able to score 4 of the 8 goals that Flight put in against Pittsburgh Knights in week 1, and I think that he's going to have to get offensive pressure on Cloud9 very quickly. Offensive pressure for Flight is going to be the key here. Last week I said that their X factor was going to be offensive efficiency against NRG. They obviously weren't very efficient. If they can get somewhat consistent versus Cloud9, put in some good shot to goal percentages, this will be a very tough game for Cloud9. And really, Cloud9's biggest enemy is themselves. And I can't exactly put my finger on what's going wrong for them. They beat NRG in a best of 7 in a different tournament earlier this year. They've shown that they have what it takes to beat the best of the best. But yet they lose to Rogue. I don't get it. It's going to take every single member of Cloud9 stepping up this week to justify beating Flight. And I never would have thought that I would have to say that about the Season 6 World Championships, but really the biggest enemy is themselves. If Cloud9 can start to use their playstyle more and start to kind of control this offensive zone, I think that it's going to be tough for Flight. That being said, I have no faith Cloud9's going to win this game. So because of that, Flight's gonna win. Next matchup of the day is Rogue versus Sonics, and I'm going to pick the Sonics to beat Rogue. And this is mostly because of the Sonics clutch win against Space Station last week. They beat them 3-1 in the series, which is a great series score, especially against one of the best NA teams from last season. One of the people I was most impressed with was Dapper. Dapper was shutting everybody down in the midfield, and Space Station just really couldn't mount any form of offensive pressure because Dapper was always there intercepting their passes. I can definitely see the Sonics bringing their midfield domination from last week into this game, and I think that that's going to contribute a lot to see if Sonics are going to win this game. That's not to say I don't think this matchup is going to be close. Rogue definitely beat Cloud9 last week, and they showed that they're a pretty good team, but I'm not convinced yet. Rogue definitely has a chance this series, but it's going to start in the midfield. They're going to have to be able to control the midfield like the Sonics did last week against Space Station. My X factors for the series are Wonder for Rogue and Dapper for the Sonics, because this game is all about who's going to dominate the midfield. Like I said earlier, Dapper has shown so much prowess in the midfield that if they continue to keep that up, I think that it's going to be an easy win for Sonics. That being said, Wonder has had a very quiet season for Rogue. If Wonder can match Dapper's midfield presence from last week, I think we're in for a really tough season, and we know that Rogue can score. I mean, they put in some really clutch goals against Cloud9. I think if Dapper is the only one allowed to have some sort of midfield control in this game, it's going to be tough for Rogue. But if Wonder can match that pressure, I think that Rogue will actually have a better shot at winning this game. But I still think Dapper is going to continue to play well, and so that is why I am going to say that the Sonics are going to win this game. Next up is G2 versus Flight. Wait, we already said Flight. Why are they playing again? I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know why this is happening. What I understand is that because week 1 was delayed due to the server shutdown, that they are moving these matches to weeks 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. It's super confusing, but this week the teams that are playing 2 series are NRG and Flight. Next week it's going to be Ghost and Rogue. The week after that, it's going to be E United and Pittsburgh Knights. Week 7, it's going to be Cloud9 and Sonics, and week 8, it's going to be G2 and Space Station. I don't really understand why it's like that. That's just what I'm getting from Wikipedia. But let's get into this game. I think G2 is going to win this game simply because they've played excellent this season. I think I put G2 at 4th place for my predictions. I think they're a top 2 contester. G2's passing power has been enough to overwhelm teams like Pittsburgh Knights already, and I think that's just going to make it really difficult for Flight to win this game. I've said this before, but it really looks like G2 has refined their playstyle, and they just look like a very strong team right now. Also, I think Flight's going to be pretty tired going into this game after already playing Cloud9, and I also think that if they beat Cloud9, they're going to be on this emotional high afterwards, and that's just going to translate into them playing poorly in their second matchup. We've already seen this happen to a few teams. We saw this happen with G2 beating NRG in a Game 7 overtime at DreamHack Montreal, then proceeding to lose to the Peeps in the finals. So I think G2 is going to win this game, but it wouldn't be a serious prediction if I didn't talk about my X factors, which I have as JNaps for G2 and Emotions for Flight. JNaps was very offensively inefficient. He only scored 1 goal on his 15 shots last week. That being said, they beat Pittsburgh Knights anyways. Rizzo had a fantastic game, but I think that G2 really needs JNaps to step up. I think that he is the core part to this entire passing system working, because he is the one who can break them out of these midfield 50-50s. That being said, he's going to have to be more offensively efficient this week and in the following weeks in order for G2 to continue playing this well. And I'm saying that Emotions for Flight is going to be their X factor simply because I really think they're going to beat Cloud9. Think about it. I know that if I had beaten Cloud9 in the previous series, that I would be on legitimately Cloud9. Gosh, that joke sucked. I'm sorry. The point is, I think that Flight's emotions are going to be high following their win against Cloud9, beating a big org, but I think that they're just going to let that get to their head, and G2 are going to be able to find mistakes that Flight create. If they can keep their emotions in check and continue playing well, I think they'll give G2 a run for their money. I think we're really going to see how mentally solid this Flight roster is starting this week. Next up is NRG versus E United. I am going to pick NRG, and I think this is a pretty safe bet. NRG, after Worlds, has continued showing why they should be the best team in North America, and I fully expect them to show their dominance this week against E United. And quite frankly, NRG really haven't made that many mistakes this season, well, besides that turbo own goal. They did have a somewhat close series against Sonics, but at the same time, I think that was just first week nerves. Yeah, even the world champions can have first week nerves. I firmly believe that. E United is still a very strong team. I just think that NRG is much better than them. E United's playstyle is to control the midfield. That being said, I don't think they're going to find many gaps to control the midfield against NRG. I mean, this playstyle already didn't work against Ghost. What's to say that it's going to work against the best team in North America? My X factors are going to be consistency for NRG and roll diz for E United. NRG has shown that they can take care of business against some of the smaller teams in RLCS. The question is, can they start to do this against some of the better teams? Can they keep their consistency going forward against teams like E United, against Ghost, against G2? You get my idea. And I chose Rlcs for E United because when E United beat Cloud9, I'd say that Rlcs was their most valuable player. Even though he had the lowest score average on his entire team, his offensive pressure is going to be super critical in this series. If Rlcs can control the middle and attacking third and put a ton of offensive pressure on NRG, I wouldn't be surprised if NRG fell this week. But that being said, I think this is going to be a pretty clear victory for NRG because I don't see Rlcs being able to put enough pressure on in order to help E United win this. Next up, our fifth matchup of the day is Knights versus Goats. Next up, our fifth matchup of the day, it's the Pittsburgh Knights versus Ghost, and holy crap, this is going to be the best matchup of the day. I spent probably a good hour thinking about this one. Like, there's so many factors of it, there's so many things that could happen. I really believe that if there were ties allowed in Rocket League, this would be a tie. That being said, I'm picking Ghost because the Knights really seem lost with their new playstyle, and now that they have AJ on their team instead of Mist. Their playstyle got completely shut down against G2, and I really think other teams are starting to figure that out. And the Knights had a not so convincing win over Flight, and NRG blew out Flight last week. That being said, Ghost has looked very convincingly good all season. They did lose that series to Space Station, but every single game that series was by 1 goal. And so you might look at it and see, oh, it was a 3-1 win for Space Station, that's pretty dominant. But when you really look at each individual game, the scores were 1-0, 2-1. You get the idea. Last week's game against E United really showed that Ghost is here offensively and that they're starting to mesh together better. My X factors for this game are Atomic for Ghost and Rlcs for Pittsburgh Knights. Atomic really controlled Ghost's offensive pressure last week. I mean, he had 5 assists throughout the entire series. And if Atomic keeps playing that assisting role that he did in week 2, Ghost are going to look unstoppable. And I chose Rlcs because we know he's a great player. I mean, week 1, we saw him not only make 10 saves, but score 5 goals and still have 36% shot to goal percentage. Last week, the Knights just really couldn't get any kind of offensive pressure going, and that's why they lost the series. I think he's a really great player. He's just really going to have to step up this week in a way that he didn't last week. Or rather, he couldn't just because of how stuck on defense their team was the entire series against G2. So I want to see Rlcs come back into the fray and score some more goals like he did in week 1. And if Rlcs steps up, I think this will be a pretty easy win for the Knights. But Ghost looks so good right now, I'm going to have to say that Ghost are going to win this series. Next up, our final series of the day is NRG versus Space Station. With Flight, I said that their emotions were going to be an X factor because they had just come off of 1 win and now they have to go play another better team. But I don't think that's going to be the problem for NRG. They definitely have the experience and consistency to go 2-0 this week. That being said, we know that Space Station has what it takes. Yeah, they lost to NRG 4-1 in their last series at Worlds, but they are a very talented team and they're going to have to play at the top of their game if they want to beat NRG. My X factors for this series are Garrett G and Arsenal. Garrett G for NRG and Arsenal for Space Station. NRG is definitely going to be tired from their first series, so Garrett G is really going to have to step up. When I look at who's been the most consistent over their tenure in Rlcs, Garrett G is the epitome of that. Maybe second to K-Dot, but we're talking about only NA here. Garrett G is by far the most consistent player. If Garrett G makes as few mistakes as possible this series, I think that NRG are going to blow out Space Station. And I chose Arsenal because of his quiet week against the Sonics last week. We know he's a top scorer, especially in his week 1 matchup versus Ghost, and he even won World's Day 1 MVP last season. I think if Arsenal plays the same way that he played in week 1, Space Station will have an upset over NRG this week. That being said, I think NRG is a bit too consistent, and so I think that NRG is going to inevitably win this series. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the predictions. If you want to follow along, I will have a link to the Twitch page for all the games in the description below so that you can go watch them as they go on. At the time I'm uploading this, game should be starting soon, so go ahead and go check out their Twitch channel. Link is in my description. If this video sucked, well then you know what to do, but if it didn't, drop a like and don't forget to subscribe for more content. If you enjoy these videos, consider sharing them with a friend. If they like Rocket League and a lot of data and analysis, then show them this. But for now, I'm going to head out. I've got to go to a dinner with my family, so I'm going to go do that. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys next time. Peace.